If you only have people in for 1 year, you have a massive training burden. Where are you going to accommodate them? How are you going to feed them? Where's the medical service, dental service? At the moment, the British Army has 80,000 people. In the army, there's about 10,000 a year recruited. So if you now put an extra 30,000 a year on that, that's 4 times the annual training. That would have a huge impact on the infrastructure. It would make the training requirement for the British Army huge and effectively dumb down the army because they'd be spending most of their time training people and they get no benefit from them. Normally,
he defended the policy yesterday, but Keir Starmer has ridiculed it.
The desperation of this national service policy, a sort of teenage dad's army, paid for, I kid you not, by cancelling levelling up funding and money from tax avoidance that we would use to invest in our NHS.
The military analyst Sean Bell is here. Sean, look, is this a policy that is just ridiculous or is there merit to it?
Yeah, good morning, Rosie. I mean, when I first heard the policy, I wondered where on earth did it come from. It is worth pointing out, and I know you know this, but the viewers, for 95% of what they're announcing, it's about the volunteering 1 weekend a month help society. It's about 30,000, they've said, which is about just under 5% of the 700,000 18-year-olds we have at any one time in this country. There will be a selection process, and they offer a full-time placement for 12 months into the military. But the problem is the Prime Minister cited Sweden as an example. But if you look at Sweden, or where it works, but if you look at Sweden, they're a defensive country. They generally have a small military. They want to have a lot of reservists, and 1 year's training provides a sort of seed pool of reservists. The trouble is the UK, we have overseas territories, Gibraltar, Falkland Islands that all need protecting. And also, we do get involved in expeditionary warfare, Iraq, Afghanistan. So we require professional armed forces, well-motivated, effective, 24/7. And traditionally, our military has not welcomed this sort of initiative. So I'd be really interested to find out whether any of the serving military are behind this, given the fact we're in Purdah. We won't know that until after the election.
Yeah, Sean, from your perspective, has there been a bit of a shift in terms of young people's optics of military life, military service? And, we're suffering a bit of a recruitment crisis when it comes to our armed forces. This could be something that injected a huge boost of enthusiasm for what our military is doing.
Yeah, and it's interesting, Rosie, isn't it? But the slight irony of this is that when we are at war, so when we were active in Afghanistan, however brutal, however desperate that battle was, the military had no problem recruiting. It's during peacetime when the military are not overtly on operations that we struggle with the recruitment. And let's be clear, I mean, the military, there are some positive things that any form of military training would provide. It provides some life skills, self-discipline, leadership and stuff like that. But if you go back to mandatory national service in the military, the last time we did this was the end of the Second World War, with dealing with the fallout, as it were, of a devastating world war. And they said, right, 17 to 21-year-olds, 18-month service, and of course that ended in 1960. But practically, let me bring this to life with a real-life example. If you only have people in for 1 year, you have a massive training burden. Where are you going to accommodate them? How are you going to feed them? Where's the medical service, dental service? At the moment, the British Army has 80,000 people. In the army, there's about 10,000 a year recruited. So if you now put an extra 30,000 a year on that, that's 4 times the annual training. That would have a huge impact on the infrastructure. It would make the training requirement for the British Army huge and effectively dumb down the army because they'd be spending most of their time training people and they get no benefit from them. Normally, you train your people as they go more experience, they get promoted, then they come back and help train. You get no return on investment for these people. So you simply be training 18-year-olds ready for society. And I think, as you said up front, the UK doesn't support conscripted military. It reduces morale, it reduces proficiency. You get a reduced quality, and ultimately that means you pay with lives on the battlefield. It's definitely not something that the military would in favour of at all.
I mean, so William Hague puts it today in The Times, saying a large pool of trained people in their 20s is not a teenage army. It sounds as though you disagree.
The trouble is you're talking about a large pool of trained personnel. How do you train them? The military has a long established hundreds of years of working out how to train people. And it's not just about getting the training. They're going to be properly motivated. having a load of people who don't really want to be there, who are counting down the days till they can leave. I mean, what's I found fascinating.
So just to say, if you don't want to be there, you are not going to thrive. I mean, my other half's in the army, a military doctor. If you haven't got the kind of gumption and the right attitude, there is kind of no point.
Well, yeah, and it's not just that. It always seems like punishment if you're forced to do it. And if you're forced to do it, and you're going to be a liability to your colleagues, you're not going to be leading, you're not going to be enthusiastic. And that is a very dangerous attribute. I think the irony here is the Permanent Undersecretary, Andrew Morrison, there was a note that he wrote just after the election was announced that said that the government had no plans to do that, and cited a whole load of reasons why the government thought it was a bad idea.
The timing is extraordinary. And then you realise,
mad.
Yeah, I've got to roll out my ministers to defend the policy when we sort of mocked it a few weeks ago. Exactly. Sean, thank you so much. The military analyst, Sean Bell, on, well, the proposals. It's a fascinating case for it, written by William Hague this morning. And he's sort of justifying, because he did write a comment piece, it was a few weeks ago, making the argument for national service. So he's doubled down on his support for it, about not just sort of why he thinks it would be useful to have these sort of trained people ready in the reserve, but what it would do to sort of the national psyche.
Rishi Sunak's national service plans didn't necessarily go down as an appeal to the youth vote, even if he did pop up on TikTok to talk it up. We played you that video a little bit earlier on. One person who wasn't impressed, though, was Harvey Whitby. He was the president of Birmingham Young Conservatives until he resigned from the party yesterday. He's actually switched over to the Liberal Democrats and wrote on social media that the plan to reintroduce national service was rushed without any consideration of the impact on the youth vote. And he joins us now. Good morning.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Is it national service that pushed you over the edge? I mean, was that the thing that really made you think, you know what, the Tories are no longer for me?
Yeah, that was the final straw, which basically proved that they had no policies left for the youth of today.
And what was it about national service that really put you off? Because some young people say, well, actually, it might be quite a nice thing, you know, a bit of volunteering, a bit of time carved out to do something different. It's not necessarily the worst idea in the world. What is it about you that strikes you as wrong?
I'm not against national service if it was absolutely necessary. I'm also against this proposition because of the fact that it's practically just unfair, because they expect you to drop out of any current jobs you have to do this volunteering scheme. I just think it's just mental, really.
And you also wrote in your resignation letter that CCHQ, Conservative Party campaign headquarters, are making it harder for the Tories to win the election. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, this whole election campaign has just been like a series of bluff after bluff, and it's just a category of errors, really. And this sort of policy would just put off an entire generation from voting Conservative for the next 10, 20, 30, who knows how many years.
Is that something that you have been coming up against on the doorstep? Because obviously up until now you have been a member of the Tory party, so you will have been out campaigning for them. Is that the response that you were hearing from young people when you were out on the doorstep?
Yeah, pretty much. Many young people at this point in time aren't even considering voting Conservative just because of how they are seen as the party for pensioners, really, at this point.
And Mel Stride was saying to us before, well, a lot of young people do actually care about pensioners, so that might be beneficial even for them. Is that doesn't work for you as a message?
I mean, I don't think anyone has anything against pensioners, really, but I think the main issue is the optics of giving pensioners an extra £900 a year while young people are meant to work for a year without any pay doesn't exactly sit right with a lot of people.
Harvey, thank you. Thanks for joining us on the show this morning. That was Harvey Whitby, who was the president of Birmingham Young Conservatives until he resigned and joined the Liberal Democrats yesterday.